Hey, I'm J Loren Norris. I'm here today to dive into the Word with you. And so let's jump right into Song of Solomon, chapter 5. This one actually starts with the torment of separation. I've come into my garden, my sister, my bride. I've gathered my myrrh along with my balsam. I've eaten my honeycomb, my honey. I've drunk my wine, my milk. Eat, friends, drink, and vibe deeply, O lovers. I was asleep, but my heart was awake. A voice, my beloved, was knocking. Open to me, my sister, my darling, my dove, my perfect one, for my head is drenched with dew, my locks with the damp of the night. I've taken off my dress. How can I put it on again? I've washed my feet. How can I dirty them again? My beloved extended his hand through the open window, and my feelings were aroused for him. I arose, opened to my beloved, and my hands dripped with myrrh, and my fingers with liquid myrrh on the handles of the bolt. I opened to my beloved, but my beloved had turned and had gone away. My heart went out to him as he spoke. I searched for him, but I did not find him. I called him, but he did not answer me. The watchmen who make the rounds in the city found me. They struck me and wounded me. The guardsmen of the walls took away my shawl for me. I adjure you, O daughters of Jerusalem, if you find my beloved, as to what you will tell him, for I am lovesick. What kind of beloved is your beloved, O most beautiful among women? What kind of beloved is your beloved, that thus you adjure us? Admiration by the bride. My beloved is dazzling and ruddy, outstanding among 10,000. His head is like gold, pure gold. His locks are like clusters of dates, and black as a raven. His eyes are like doves beside streams of water, bathed in milk and reposed in their setting. His cheeks are like beds of balsam, banks of sweet scented herbs. His lips are lilies, dripping with liquid myrrh. His hands rods of gold set with beryl. His abdomen carved ivory and laid with sapphires. His legs are pillars of alabaster set on pedestals of pure gold. His appearance is like Lebanon, choice as the cedars. His mouth is full of sweetness, and he is wholly desirable. This, my beloved, this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. Mutual delight in each other, chapter 6. Where has your beloved gone, O most beautiful among women? Where has your beloved turned that we may seek him with you? My beloved has gone down to his garden, to the beds of balsam, to pasture his flock in the gardens and gather lilies. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine, he who pastures the flock among the lilies. You are as beautiful as Tirzah, my darling, as lovely as Jerusalem, as awesome as an army with banners. Turn your eyes away from me, for they confused me. Your hair is like a flock of goats. They have descended from Gilead. Your teeth are like a flock of ewes, which have come up from their washing, all which bear twins, and not one among them has lost her young. Your temples are like a slice of pomegranate. Behind your veil there are 60 queens and 80 concubines, and maidens without number. But my dove, my perfect one, is unique. She is her mother's only daughter. She is the pure child of one who bore her. The maidens saw her and called her blessed, the queens and the concubines also, and they praised her, saying, Who is this that grows like dawn, as beautiful as the full moon, as pure as the sun, as awesome as the army with banners? I went down to the orchard of the nut trees to see the blossoms of the valley, to see whether the vine had budded or the pomegranates had bloomed. Before I was aware, my soul set me over the chariots of the noble people. Come back, O Shulamite, come back, that we might gaze at you. Why should you gaze at the Shulamite? As at the dance of the two companies. Chapter 7. Admiration by the bridegroom. How beautiful are your feet in sandals, O prince's daughter! The curves of your hips are like jewels, the work of your hands of an artist. Your navel is like a round goblet which never lacks mixed wine. Your belly is like a heap of wheat fenced about with lilies. Your two breasts are like two fawns, twins of a gazelle. Your neck is like the tower of ivory. Your eyes are like the pools of Heshbon by the gate of Beth Rebbim. Your nose is like the tower of Lebanon, which faces toward Damascus. Your head crowns you like Carmel, and the flowing locks of your head are like the purple threads. The king is captivated by your tresses. How beautiful and how delightful you are, my love, with all your charms. Your stature is like a palm tree, and your breasts are like its clusters. I said, I will climb the palm tree. I will take hold of its fruit stalks. Oh, that your breasts be like the clusters of the vine, and the fragrance of your breath like apples, your mouth like the best wine. It goes down smoothly for my beloved, flowing gently through the lips of those who fall asleep. The union of love. I am my beloved's, and his desire is for me. Come, beloved, let us go out into the country. Let us spend the night in the villages. Let us rise early and go to the vineyards. Let us see whether the vine has budded and its blossoms have opened, whether the pomegranates have bloomed. There I will give you my love. The mandrakes have given forth fragrance, and over our doors are choice fruits, both new and old, which I have saved up for you, my beloved. Chapter 8. The lovers speak. Oh, that you were like a brother to me, who nursed at my mother's breast. If I found you outdoors, I would kiss you. No one would despise me either. I would lead you and bring you into the house of my mother who instructed me. I would give you spiced wine and drink from the juice of pomegranates. Let his left hand be under my head and his right hand embrace me. I want you to swear, O daughters of Jerusalem, don't arouse or awaken my love until she pleases. Who is this coming up from the wilderness, leaning on her beloved? Beneath the apple tree I awakened you. There your mother was in labor with you. There she was in labor and gave you birth. Put me like a seal over your heart, like a seal on your arm. For love is as strong as death, jealousy as severe as Sheol. Its flashes are flashes of fire, the very flame of the Lord. Many waters cannot quench love, nor will rivers overflow it. If a man were to give all the riches of his house for love, it would be utterly despised. We have a little sister, and she has no breast. What shall we do for our sister on the day when she is spoken for? If she is a wall, we will build on her battlement of silver. But if she is a door, we will barricade her with planks of cedar. I was a wall, and my breasts were like towers. Then I became in his eyes as one who finds peace. Solomon had a vineyard at Baalhamon. He entrusted the vineyard to caretakers. Each one was to bring 1,000 shekels of silver for his fruit. My very own vineyard is at my disposal. The 1,000 shekels are for you, Solomon, and 200 are for those who take care of its fruit. O you who sit in the gardens, my companions are listening for your voice. Let me hear it. Hurry, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a young stag on the mountain of spices.
Welcome to Fear into Faith. My name is Summer Day, and I get to be in the studio today with Mr. J Loren Norris.
Thank you for having me, Summer.
I'm really glad that you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you for agreeing to be a part of this TV show and being one of our readers. You know, you and I have been friends for a little while now, and I've seen you speak on stages, and you have one of those really powerful voices, so I was excited to hear you read the Word of God.
Thank you.
What was that like for you today?
There's a lot of big words. And a lot of names that we don't use in America on a regular basis.
Yes, but you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
You sounded well, my friend. You did. I know that you weren't anticipating having to do the King James version with some of those words. But
some of the words, some of the names, some of the sentence patterns. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought better you than me.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Look out for that bus! Yeah.
Well, I actually know a lot about you from the business perspective. I know you're a speaker coach, but I haven't really got to unpack your sort of journey with the Lord. So I think let's start there. Let's reverse back in time. And were you born and raised, with strong faith?
I was born and raised in what you would consider a religious understanding of faith.
Okay.
By that I mean I was raised in a small town in Central Texas where most people think if you're not born a cow, you're born a Christian.
If you're not born a cow, you are born.
If you're human, you're probably.
Okay, I've not heard this before.
Yeah.
I actually just recently relocated to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Welcome
and you
home.
live in thank you. We really like it here. The people are amazing. And so you've said that essentially the belief in Texas was if you're not born
A cow. You're born a Christian.
a cow, you're born a
Yeah.
Christian. Okay, I've not heard that. Let's
So
go on.
Southern Baptist, right? So I recently heard a pastor, Robert Morris of Gateway, he said, there's a difference between conception and incubation and birth.
Okay.
And so the way I would have told you before I heard that theory, I would have said, well, I was born again at 9 years old, and then I kind of fell off the wagon. So I gave my life to Christ at 9. Didn't really give it up. I just kind of took what he offered. But that happened because I was in a little church in Enid, Oklahoma, and my stepdad was very abusive. And I heard the preacher say, it was I was making paper airplanes with gum wrappers, right?
Yes.
I'm not really paying
What
attention.
9-year-old boys are usually doing.
I wasn't paying any attention to the message. But I heard him say, if you need a best friend who will stick closer than a brother, come up here and meet my friend Jesus.
Good.
I had no brother. I had no friends. I had an abusive stepfather. And I was looking for any dude that really wanted to hang out with me. And so I went up there, accepted Christ at 9 years old, had no idea what I was doing. Over the next 6 to 9 months, though, I won every Bible drill. I was there every time the doors were open until my stepfather said, you'll never go back to that building as long as I can help it. And the day that I got baptized, there was none of my family in the audience. But I remember that day after the service was over, everybody was shaking hands with the pastor, Brother Byron O'Neill. He's standing on the edge of the platform, and I climbed up on the platform, pushed him off the platform, and when he turned around, we were eye to eye. And I looked him in the eye and said, one of these days, Brother O'Neill, I'm going to take your place.
Wow.
Now, the real irony is you can fast forward about 20 years, and a girl that I was seeing at the time was from Oklahoma, and her family lived just miles down the road from Enid, which I hadn't revisited since we left when my stepdad died. And I looked up Brother Byron O'Neill, and we went to his house. And he not only remembered that, he had written it in his Bible, and he was the only person I know that saved the obituary of my stepfather.
Wow.
And so when I went to see him, he handed me that, and he said, there's been a calling on your life as long as I've known you. I just wish I'd been able to keep in touch with you and disciple you. But I went as far from the kingdom as you can imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as you can imagine. If there's something you could do wrong, I found a way to do it.
Wow. Well, I want to know more about when you saw him. I feel like you left us hanging a little bit on that story.
It was a really interesting thing. It was almost like a coming full circle.
Yeah.
So the meeting, we drove 2.5 hours to get to his apartment. We walked in the door. We sat with him for probably 10 minutes. He was old and frail and feeble, but he remembered me as sharp as a tack. Remembered the day that my stepdad said, don't come back here. And it was because, and I hearken back now when I think about it, Tony Robbins, his whole story started when his stepfather refused to accept a free turkey for Thanksgiving. Well, we were asked to leave we were told to get out of the church by my stepfather because someone from the church gave shoes to my sister.
Oh, wow.
So very similar kind of
Yeah.
wrathful heart.
Yeah.
And so that really sparked an interesting journey for me. But it was shortly after that I was molested as a 9-year-old boy. I spent the next 25 years addicted to pornography as a result. Like I said, I ran as far from God as I possibly could.
Wow.
It wasn't until basic training that I'd fallen in love for as much as you can at 19 years old, just before going into basic training.
Yeah.
And I was writing her letters and trying to call her. And when I called one time, her grandmother picked up the phone and said, she never wants to talk to you again, and hung up on me. And so I was devastated.
Yeah.
I had joined the Air Force because my high school sweetheart broke up with me. And when I called her, she was like, who is this? And I'm like, what? We've been together 3 years. How do you not know my name? And so it was just a collision after collision of relying on people and finding that I couldn't trust them. And so I'm writing a letter to this girl to say, I want to fix this. And it kept turning into a poem. And I would get mad. I would wad them up and throw them I'd start again. And I'd get to the point. And when I realized that they ended the same every time, I started pulling them out and laying them onto the bed next to each other. And that day, I had been made dorm chief over our flight in basic training. And I'm reading these stanzas. Every man in the room is crying. Day 9 is kind of the breaking point where they've shaved your head. They've taken away your identity. Everybody's lost.
Yeah.
And I'm listening to everybody in the room has the same emotional sense that I do right now. It's so bizarre. But
all of these letters ended in the same couple of lines. I need somebody to lean on, that no matter how hard I lean, they don't turn their back on me. And it was like instantly an epiphany of Jesus leaning against the wall, arms crossed, not like judgment, but like,
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
Wow.
And the words he said to me were, I never turned my back on you. You turned your back on me.
Wow.
And so I guess for lack of a better word, I repented right then. And I said, let's do this then. And I stood up and I turned around to the rest of the group and I said, every one of you are crying for the same reason. But I'd like to lead us in the Lord's Prayer. It was the only thing I knew.
Wow.
And so I led the room in the Lord's Prayer. I don't know how long you've been in Texas or how many times you've been in Texas, but it tends to get a little toasty. I saw a Facebook post today that somebody ran into Abednego at the 7-Eleven. I wouldn't be at all surprised. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Anyway, it gets really hot. And so September the 30th of 1988 was when I went into basic training. So 9 days into that. And I said, let's pray. And this cold wind blew through the windows.
Wow.
You would have thought somebody dropped the temperature 50 degrees. Every man that was already in bed pulled a blanket up to his neck. The crying ceased. And after we said the Lord's Prayer, our flight did that every night until we graduated.
Oh my gosh.
And we became an honor flight. And it was as different as daylight and dark from the first 8 days of our basic training.
Wow. And do you still keep in contact with any of those men?
None of them.
None of them.
Not one.
But I guarantee you there was a seed planted. I'm praying one of them watches this interview and it's like, Mr. J. Loren, I need to get you on the phone. I want to go back to when you got to meet that pastor. I want to know what that was like for you and how that started to change your life.
I'll be honest and tell you, I was ignorant at that point. There was a whole lot of arrogance and pride in me. And, I felt like I did something for him to go back and see him.
And you know what else? I just realized it's time for us actually to go on a commercial break, which is perfect to leave everybody hanging. And you shared a lot that we're going to unpack when we come back.
Kinky, curly, wavy, straight, no matter what texture of hair you have, your hair is uniquely you and can shine in its natural beauty. And you don't have to use harsh chemicals that hurt your hair to do it. Hair Rules has exactly what you need. Our non-toxic, nourishing blend of ingredients help you work with your unique hair texture and not against it. You've got beautiful and unique hair. It's time to start showing it. Visit ilovemytexture.com and treat your hair the way it deserves. Your choice, your hair, your rules. ilovemytexture.com.
So we're back with J Loren Norris, and we're going to hear more of his testimony, kind of how he fell away from the Lord for a while, and then you're back now and on fire for Jesus, you might say. I was asking you about that moment where you went back to the pastor's house, and you said actually you were kind of ignorant of how powerful the moment was.
I look back on it now, and I have a better understanding.
Yeah.
Let me give you a contrast for an example. So I was 2 years into my Air Force career at the time. I had gotten to my first base, gone through all the journey there, and at my first base fell in love, right? Because that's what we all do. So I fell in love with this girl, and we had a wild, crazy relationship, and we had agreed that we were going to get married so she could go to overseas with me when I got the assignment to go overseas. And her dad said, just wait, and if you'll hold off, I'll pay for everything. Of course, I wasn't smart enough to know the bride's father's supposed to pay for everything anyway. So I was like, yes, he's going to pay for everything. I thought it was a big lottery win or something. But the contrast, I went home on leave and I'm walking into the grocery store. It's the biggest thing in our town, about 5,000, most of those cows. And so in this little town, as I'm walking to the grocery store, my aunt works there and mom wasn't at home and mom wasn't at the school. There's only one other place to be in town. That's the grocery store, talking to her sister.
Okay.
And so I pull up in front, I get the front parking space, I park my Firebird there, I step out in my dress blue uniform with my badge on my chest and feeling really powerful and important in this tiny little town. And I walk through the door, I find her, she's checking out, so I'm just waiting at the end of the register, and this kid comes running from all the way across the room. He's probably 14 or 15 years old. Sprints across the front of the grocery store. Everybody's turning to look at him. It's like this moment on the beach, like the unrequited love finally returns home kind of thing. And I don't have a brother and I don't have a son. And so who's this kid, right? And so he runs and he jumps and he hugs me around the neck and he looks at me and he looks me up and down. And I'm so proud of myself for all that I've accomplished coming from a small town to be in the Air Force. And he says, I want to be just like you when I grow up. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. High five, right? And I'm thinking back to the contrast of that moment with the preacher in his little apartment, and him in his wheelchair and frail. And if there's a legacy that I can pass on, right? How awesome would that be?
Yeah.
And he says, do you remember me? And I said, I'm sorry, I have to be honest and say I don't. He said, do you remember when you were 15 and you had that 19-year-old girlfriend? I said, oh, the one that was married. He said, yeah, her. I was one of the two brothers y'all used to pick up after school every day when you were hanging out with her. I want to be just like you when I grow up. And I was crushed because I realized that what he envied was the worst part of me. What he wanted to emulate was not the better part of me, it was the worst part of me.
Wow.
And if I could go back now and meet him again and meet the pastor again, I'd be like, there's such a drastic difference.
Yeah.
In both cases, I felt like I really added value to their life in my young, arrogant pride.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I think, how many other lives did I have a chance to cross paths with to extol them, to benefit them, to genuinely add value to their life? Just today, while we were waiting to come on set, I was sending a Facebook message to a young man he posted pictures of his son and his daughter and their academic accomplishments. And I just messaged him and said, how's your dad? His dad had a stomach surgery on June 19th. But he's a pastor retired from the Congo that I've known for about 5 years now. And we've had a great relationship, but I haven't heard from him since June. And I was really concerned about him. And he said, well, they put him in the ER at 3:00 this morning with an obstruction. And I thought, that's one of those guys who has spoken into my life. One of those guys that we sit at Waffle House and he just listens to me. And he looks at me, he's like, I feel like I should be taking notes. I'm like, Dr. Kasanga, you were the professor of theology at Princeton and Harvard. What in the world would I say that you would be taking notes on? But see, I want to be that kind of guy that adds value to people, that encourages them and builds them up later on. And I'm only now in my old age learning to do that.
I've only known you for a while now, and that's my impression of you, is you are such an edifier, an encourager. You're an incredible connector. You have personally connected me to many people that are participating in this TV show. You're so great at that. So I think you might have a little more influence over people than you know so far. I would describe you exactly that way if somebody had asked me. Okay, we're going to go reel back just a little bit because you threw out a lot of stuff in the beginning, including your addiction. And I feel like it's time to go back there and put some weight on it because I am so proud of you to be a man and be so vulnerable and willing to just openly share your struggle. You said starting from 9, it was 25 years of addiction to porn. And from what I know about the statistics of pornography is, they're saying that it's like 69-70% of church-going men sitting in the pulpit have gone through at least a season of struggling with porn. And now it's 58% of pastors, 23% of women. So it's an issue that no one's talking about. And so I'm proud of you for boldly speaking up on that, and would love to hear you share a little bit more about that.
I heard an interview after Ravi Zacharias passed between two men, one of whom said, Ravi was one of my best friends. We spent a lot of time together. And he made the comment, I wish I'd known that he struggled where he did. I have to juxtapose that to a time that I sat down with a pastor to tell him about the ministry that my wife and I do. I had 21 partners before my wife, but since my wife, 0. Since the day that we held hands until today, there has been no one besides my wife. September will be 29 years.
Well, I've met her. She's pretty fabulous.
She is, absolutely. Our marriage wouldn't have lasted if it hadn't been for the grace that God placed in her. Overwhelming sense of grace. The mercy that she has is, I haven't met anybody else like that. But I remember when I was talking to a pastor about us possibly bringing our Transforming Grace material to his church. And I said, I help men who are struggling with pornography. And he said, I've been in ministry 32 years. I don't know anybody in my church that struggles with pornography.
Oh.
Now, I didn't say it out loud, but in my heart, I thought, that's like saying I live in LA and I've never seen a car. You're either blind or you're lying. And so I just kind of let it go. And I went on from the meeting. And about a week later, he calls me and he says, okay, since you mentioned that, 7 different men have come to me and said, I struggle with this. And I realized I am not equipped to help them.
Wow.
So please help.
Wow.
And so we did. And for the next 10 weeks, my wife and I went. She met with the women, I met with the men, and we walked through her book, The 5 Battle Positions of a Happy Wife, and my book, The 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior.
So
and
good.
it really just starts with, how do you even identify that what you're doing is sin?
Wow.
And I think that's where most people miss. They can look at it and go, okay, well, it's probably not a good idea, or it cost me a lot of money, or it has, strained my relationships. It maybe has modified my personality some.
Yeah.
But they'll never say it's sin. And until you confess that it's sin, repentance isn't an option.
Yeah.
Once you've confessed that it's sin and repented of it, then the blood takes over and you can find freedom.
Yeah.
And so I juxtapose those two, and I think the old kindergarten phrase is right. It takes one to know one, and I was one.
Yeah.
And so I know one when I see one.
Yeah.
And so for a best friend to someone to say their life was wrecked, not in their life, nobody knew while they were alive, but the reputation of all this phenomenal theological, philosophical success is now tainted and in question over some accusations that should never have been. And for a pastor to say, I know nothing about this.
Yeah.
Both of those are a challenge, because it just means you haven't surrounded yourself with people who can go, you're not doing that right.
This is heavy stuff. We're going to pause really quick. We are going to go on a break, and I promise you we're going to come back and get right into this when we get back. That's amazing.
You have all the power within you to say no to fear. The world can't wait. We don't have time. We don't have time. We don't have time. You are not going to leave here in fear. Fear gets to go in Jesus' name.
All right, we're back, and we're going to just head right back into where we left off. But before we get more of the story, you were talking about your books.
Yes.
Where can people get these books?
You can go to
mentioned?
Amazon.com and search by my name, J Loren Norris, or you can look for 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. There's even a website, 5battlestrategies.com, that has all the material on it. And
then your wife's book was called?
The 5 Battle Positions of a Happy Wife.
Wow, this is awesome. I am so grateful that you broached this subject, because I know that there are people watching right now. There are men watching right now. There are women watching right now that are struggling and have never told anybody, because it is that taboo thing that no one's talking about. And I just want to share with them just that is what Satan uses. He uses that guilt. He uses that shame. He uses that condemnation to keep them stuck. And I love that you said, look, for 25 years, if there was a sin, if there was a way to get far away from God, I did it. And yet, when you were ready, he was sitting there with his arms crossed like, hey, I've been here the whole time. And I think that that's a misconception all the time, is people think that I've gone too far away. I've done too many other things, and he's not going to welcome me back. And you know my story, that, my husband, similar struggles, and we've walked through this. So I want to unpack just a little bit about, what would you say? And man, you can look just right at that camera. What would you say to the person that's struggling right now, and they're listening to this, and they're maybe just feeling like, maybe I need to tell somebody, maybe I need to do something about it? What would you say just directly to that?
So there are 2 things.
Man or woman, because they're both.
So the 2 things I want you to understand.
You can check out the rest of this interview right here, or by going to BibleRevival.tv. And if this show has blessed you, you can help us bless others by partnering with us for as little as $20 a month and help us to expand the reach of this show. We'd also like to invite you to join our Kingdom Discipleship Program, where you have an opportunity to get on weekly Bible Zoom calls with us and people around the world to deep dive into His Word. And you can check all that out at BibleRevival.tv. I'll see you next time, my friend.